Ryan and Sanjay, welcome to the Self-Employed Estate Agency YouTube playlist. You are episode 1 of season 2.
Start with the best, eh?
Yeah. On this podcast season, we're really going to uncover, rather than kind of me and Mike talking about it from a brand point of view, I want to kind of really deep dive into how you as estate agents now are finding being self-employed. But I guess the first question, I'll throw it at you, Sanjay, because you're in the hot seat. Me and Ryan are on the sofa together. So the first question really is, like, why? Why take that big kind of career and financial risks to go self-employed and start your own business?
I got to the point where I just couldn't work for someone else. It just got too much. I feel like the structure I didn't agree with, the hours you worked I didn't agree with, the lifestyle you could have I didn't agree with. So all of that stuff combined, there was multiple other things. But when you jump into self-employed, and obviously I was already self-employed before this doing another business, so I kind of already had the taster for it. And I feel like that you need that want to try and, you know, go out and do your own thing and create the own lifestyle you want. That was a big thing for me. I think that was basically the main thing for sure.
Do you think people get to a point in their life where they become unemployable, or the opposite of unemployable? They will only ever be an employee for the rest of their life. Do you think there's like a chasm where people just split?
100%. Within a year of being self-employed, I was like, I'm 100% unemployable. Mainly because I just could not work for anyone else. Like I would probably argue with my boss if they were trying to tell me to do things which I didn't believe was the right thing to do. So yeah, I think so, 100%.
Yeah. What about yourself, Ryan? Why? Because you were employed as an agent, so you'd built a long career, a really successful career. So arguably, in comparison to Sanjay, it's probably a bigger risk to kind of become the enemy, if you like, a little bit.
Yeah, it was a little bit. I had slightly different reasons for Sanjay. From my perspective, where I was running an office, it was the year 2021. Obviously, it was coming out of the lockdown. We had these amazing bumper year of stamp duty holiday, and we broke all the records possibly we could have done in my office. And I remember sitting down with the directors for the business plan meeting for the next year, and I went in and was serious and said, look, I think we're going to be either where we are or maybe drop back a bit. And it was like they were almost shouting at me for wanting to go backwards because the market had been bumper, crazy tie, we weren't going to have that again. And it really kind of was like, oh, it's a bit frustrating, I'm a bit sick of this, to be fair. And the other thing for me as well is just the staff are great, but the generation that were coming through, and just they weren't up to the standards that I wanted. And you know, it's that whole attitude of when you go from being a successful valuer to a manager, it's quite a big transition. And I just thought I could just do this better myself.
Yeah.
And the flexibility that came with it, and yeah, that was obviously the rest was history.
It's funny actually, I saw a statistic yesterday that in 2015 the minimum wage was about 14 grand a year, and the entry point for a negotiator, the average negotiator in a estate agency, earned 23 grand a year. So there was a 58% premium on being an estate agent in comparison to minimum wage. You fast forward now to 2024 going into 2025, and minimum wage is 24 grand and the average negotiator is 26 grand. So if you actually use the 58% premium on being an estate agent, doing the weekends, the hours, the stress that comes with it, it'd be 37,000. So the appeal, the reason what you said there, I think the appeal to become an estate agent now is so much lower than what it was before, for that reason alone, because it just financially it doesn't make sense to take that career. You're better off at McDonald's. What surprised you the most? Like, what was the hardest kind of moment or task that you had, Ryan, you know, starting it over the last couple of years? Is there anything that you kind of go, wow, I didn't expect that to be that hard, or that particular moment was like where you buried your head in your hands and thought, shit, what have I done?
I think I had a call with you actually about this when we were separate partners at the time. Now, do you remember it?
I remember that call vividly.
I was about 2.5 months in, hadn't listed a house yet, and I was really, really like under pressure for everything. And I remember I sat outside this valuation, and Sanjay randomly called me like he does. He's a nice guy. Sometimes.
Just wanted to chat.
Most of the time.
How you doing, mate? How's things? I was like, Sanjay, I'm really struggling. Like, I literally cannot get a house on the market. I'm not getting called out. It's when I know there's the support network around you, and that's one of the good things about Avocado, but from the perspective of when you're in an office with loads of people around you, and then you go from that to sat in your own spare bedroom or your dining room table on a laptop thinking, God, what am I doing here? Like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So there was a few moments where I was struggling because I had tough. I think a tough start to my self-employed career. There was people around me, darting off and doing all these amazing things, and I just wasn't getting it. And I know I'm good at what I do. It just whatever wasn't working.
Of all the agents that have launched in avocado, I still think yours was the most surprising for me, that the kickoff didn't happen at the rate that the others did. I don't know whether it's the marketplace, something just didn't quite happen. Timing, maybe, launch, I don't know, but it was, I remember kind of having a few sleepless nights myself, thinking, what's going on here?
I'd say that first 9 to 12 months was, probably, that was tough, There was a few times where I've turned around and said, don't know if this is for me now. But, trust the process, and, thankfully now business has moved on, and obviously joined forces with Sanjay a few months ago, and it's, it's looking back at it now with, I'm glad I got through it. But if anyone starting out thinking it's going to be an easy ride and you're going to make 100 grand in the first year, you might do, but you also might not, and you've got to be prepared for that.
There's only a small percentage of people that will. The majority of people will find it really, really tough. What about yourself, Sanjay?
I remember that month 4, month 5, where it was that lull. It's that lull you hit when you're just like, you're not earning any money, nothing's exchanged. It was a January month as well, so it was really quiet, like nothing was really happening. And I asking them that question repeatedly: what am I doing? Am I doing the right thing? Should I be doing something else? Should I be calling in and be like, sorry mate, this is not really working? Like, all these questions start going around in your head, but I know I just had to keep pushing forward, and obviously you do get through it eventually. And then month 5 was actually really good, and I started doing really good months, and I think it was like the next 3 months I was doing 10, 15 grand, 12 grand, so it was consistent. But that period before was real tough. That was when I was in doubt mode for sure.
You're not just working for free, you're paying to go to work.
That first year, I think I was month 9, and I looked at my bank balance, and it was the most amount of money I had in my account ever in my life. And also, it was all the feedback and the client reviews and people shouting about me and the WhatsApp messages I was getting. I was like, Jesus Christ, like, what's going on? And then I remember sitting down with you and I was like, I need someone else to come and help me, because the amount of work and business that was coming in, I couldn't deal with myself, and I had to get someone else on board. I think that month 9, month 10, that transition period was nuts. Like, it was just like from nothing, month 5 to everything, month 9, 10, and then, so it was crazy.
Month 4 was the lowest, where you're like, I might jack this in. Less than 6 months later, you're like, wow, most money I've ever had in my bank account, and I need someone else to help me.
Yeah, literally. Yeah.
And that can happen, can't it? That can be like the spin around. Sometimes it's not always that fast, but that can happen. What about for you, Ryan?
I think for me, I was a lot further into the time, probably month 17, 18, had been that far in advance, where I think I had 3 or 4 months in a row I did sort of 10 grand. And the problem is when you've got the money to start with, when you launch and your lifestyle is a certain level and you're spending and your money you see going down, a lot of it was for the first 6 months after that initial first exchange, I was still just paying back stuff that I'd owed from people. So I think when I got to month 17, 18, I was kind of like, right, debt free, I'm supporting myself, we've got a nice little earner here, and the pipeline was building. That was the biggest thing. I think once I got over like 50, 60 grand pipeline, I knew, right, great, that's going to be consistently 10 to 15 grand for the next 4 months. So that's me good. So probably around that time, I'd say.
And that's really a moment of where you felt relaxed, almost. It's like you felt...
I don't think you ever feel relaxed.
But more comfortable.
Comfortable, yeah. Like,
interesting.
I was counting down, like, I know if that exchange is right, that's 4 months' time, that's pay covered at that point. And that's how I worked until I got to the point where I had 6 months worth of pay covered. And then I was like, okay, I can relax a bit.
And since that time to now, would you say that that's financially and comfortable wise, has that improved since then as well?
Yeah, well, obviously joining with Sanjay, I mean, I had a nice pipeline before I met Sanjay, but we're now month 7, 8 now together. And now obviously you've got the consistency coming in, and I think it's nice waking up knowing that you've got the flexibility to do what you want and you enjoy what you do without the pressure of having to worry about money. And that's the best way of phrasing it. It's not like you're going to spend loads of stuff and buy all this new stuff, but just not having to wake up thinking, right, I can't pay my mortgage, I can't support my family. You know it's covered for 6 to 12 months and you're happy.
And I think avocado in the self-employed world, in the agency world, is starting to become known as the agency that's quite strong and a big push on duos and a combination of, 2 business partners, 50-50 in business. You guys have experienced kind of being on your own and being together. What's your kind of thoughts on that? I mean, would you ever go back to kind of being on your own, or you feel that it's better as a duo? What's your thoughts, Sanjay?
Me personally, I wouldn't know. I feel like there's a much better dynamic when you have two people, especially when you've got different personalities like me and Ryan, for the client and for the business, because you could also get so much more done, and you can tag team stuff. And when you're in this self-employed environment, it's difficult to take time away from the business because you're on call 24/7. So having two people there, that was a big thing for me. Go on holiday and just relax, Otherwise, you do struggle. And you know what? It's better for everyone, us, the clients, and the business.
Yeah. Would you say the same?
Yeah, I think the biggest difference for me going from being on my own to with Sanjay is just having someone to bounce ideas off. When you've got a client and you know what you need to say to them, and you can just speak to your partner and say, look, this is what I'm going to say. And they'll be like, yep, great. You just need that reassurance, but just be able to bounce ideas off and kind of, I think being held accountable as well. I think that's a really big thing.
Yeah.
Like you've got each other to back each other up. So it takes half the pressure off because you're all dealing with the same clients. And it's, I don't think I would I don't think I could go back to being on my own.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I obviously launched, me and Mike did 20 months, 2 years as estate agents, working with clients and very different personalities. But again, sharing the load, being able to take a weekend off or a long weekend off and know that your business partner's got your back, and you kind of can almost like not look at your WhatsApp, but you can put it away for a couple of hours and spend some time, I think is really important. So it makes sense. One of the questions that a lot of people ask me when I'm kind of doing the pre-calls with people is around scalability and time. You mentioned time a little bit as a duo, but scalability and long-term kind of financial strategy. You've got your own company through Companies House, you've got your own business bank accounts. You pay your corp tax, you pay your income tax on what dividends you pay yourself, etc. What do you guys have individually as kind of this, let's call it a 10-year plan? What's your kind of thoughts around that and how you leverage and use the business to achieve those financial goals? Ryan?
I think there's plenty of options. I think looking at estate agency in a whole, I'm quite comfortable for the next 10 years just doing what I'm doing here. But, I want to potentially buy investment properties, look into that, stocks and shares. There's loads of things, but I think at the moment, estate agency is great to foundations. I'm not quite at that level yet where I'm looking at it, but it's exciting that the doors will open. That's the thing. And maybe look into starting additional businesses or whatever it may be. There's so many options you've got, but I think you're more entrepreneurial on that side of things, aren't you, Sanj?
I think using your limited company to use that to build other businesses and use the money efficiently with obviously your accountant is so much more valuable than being employed and having to pay more tax. I think that's one thing I never realised when I was employed, is the amount of tax you pay is so much more than what you can declare from a limited company perspective and use it more efficiently. So but there's so many options.
Yeah, I remember, I think the biggest bonus I ever got employed, like P&L bonus, was a 21 grand bonus at the end of the year on top of my wages. And I think I saw about 12.5 grand of that actually in my bank account, because it was a big sort of tax scenario. But then I kind of look at the agents and yourselves and the pipelines and look at the end of the year where you kind of maybe pay yourself a higher dividend bonus. And there is the opportunity really to pay yourself enough money at the end of the year if you've had a really strong year and the cash is in the bank to just buy a buy-to-let with that. It's enough to kind of almost have a deposit to go out and buy a 1-bed or a 2-bed or, somewhere like that. Or even if you did it over 2 years, you can be in that position. So I think that's a big difference as well that people forget, is it's not just the monthly stuff. It's when you stockpile that extra 150 grand that you built over a really solid 18 months that you can go, all right, well, let's just take that all out, pay the income tax on it. And we're in a really chunky situation where we can invest in the stock market or invest in a new business that you do on the side or invest in a buy-to-let. So I think it's important for people to think that the long-term strategy is not just estate agency, it's what the estate agency can do for you in the other areas as well.
Yeah.
If there was any advice that you would give to agents out there that are either employed or self-employed or small business owners. I'm talking to a lot of small business owners at the moment that are really struggling with the costs of being an estate agent. What advice would you give people about sort of becoming an avocado partner, and what tips would you give people, Ryan, in your circle?
I think for me, if I went back now, the mistake I made was I had a really healthy bank balance before I joined. I had quite a lot of money coming in from bonus of estate agency, remortgage the house, etc. And I didn't change my lifestyle at all. We didn't change our cars. We went on 3 holidays in the first year. I messed up massively. Just living the life I thought I did. My outgoings are, $4 to $5 grand a month, and I wasn't changing that at all. Whereas a lot of things I could have cut back on, and I think that I probably could have got a bit further ahead quicker with less stress if I'd managed my finances better. So I think the key thing is managing finances from day one. Have a clear plan. You need 6 to 9 months worth of money to survive on before you even get started.
And you need money to invest in the business.
That's the other thing as well, because you can't just sit and expect the vows to come in. You need to be joining networking meetings, Facebook advertising, all of the things go in it. Your outgoings are going to be £500-600 a month for running the business anyway. Yeah. So you need to have that accounted for. But make the sacrifices at the start, because you'll get to the end goal quicker. Yeah, that's what I tell myself.
I think that's really good advice, because I think that's so important that you realise, right, starting a business means a change in lifestyle, not just you but the whole household. Like if you're a family, if you're Mr. and Mrs. or whatever the situation, but the whole household has to be on board with changing that lifestyle for that period of time, knowing it will come back bigger, stronger and better, and investing in the business as well. Investing in marketing is an investment, not a cost, and you have to see it that way, that it's going to bring you the ROI back. What about you, Sanjay? What advice would you give people?
Don't procrastinate. So many people procrastinate. Don't listen to the naysayers who will badmouth, this industry and this business, because there is people out there, and do you know what? They do actually help build our brand. I find that there is still so much of that. And work on yourself, like your personal development. If you're not willing to, and this is, I suppose this can relate to any business, right? If you're not willing to work on your personal development and your own personal strengths to help you get the best out of what you can, especially when you're in a real high stress environment, building a business from scratch, which is effectively we are, then that's where you're going to struggle. So yeah, for sure, work on those things.
The personal development, I think, is really important. It's something that I've seen becoming a business owner over the last 5 years, is the more I can educate myself each year, the better business owner I am, and the quicker I can move things on within the business as well. So, and that can be the call that you guys had, when you weren't working together. It's, soundboarding people that are being successful in other areas and picking their brains. It can be the training meetings that you come to. It can be external training. It can be webinars on how to run YouTube ads, whatever it is. But I think for me this year, I set my stall out that I would do 10 full development days where I'd go and learn external things for 10 days this year. And those 10 days have been so valuable for me and the group, actually, because obviously I share them back with everyone as well. But I think it's a really important time to say, have that allocation, a day, a month, even if it's that worst case scenario, to step outside of being an estate agent, work a little bit on the business and work a little bit on yourself as well is a really great tip. Gents, thank you for being the debut agents on season 2 of this playlist. Really enjoyed it, and we'll be back on next Friday with some more avocado agents and more stories. So thanks for everyone that watched.